This is scary. How are you all? Fabulous. Good. Heath and I go way back. I used to pester him relentlessly at his shop counter about gear and things like that when I worked at the newspaper a while ago. And then I would pester him on the phone a lot when I worked at a newspaper down in Tasmania for a bit. And then we kind of swapped, because I think he's from out Albury way, and I ended up, that's where I am now, working for, I worked for the Board of Mail for a long time, and then, which is their newspaper, their daily, and then I'm now teaching photography at the TAFE in Wodonga. So that's why I'm here. Any questions? No, we're good. Heath asked me to judge every now and then, and I can never get over here very much. I know Mum lives in Surf Beach, but it's just always, I'd just be coming back, or... anyway, he landed it in school holidays, Victorian school holidays, so I could come over. So it's been really good. Went to Birdland today, took the kid. My camera bag is full of birdseed. So, yeah, so I'm very cranky about that. But, so Heath, so I don't know, do you think Heath's got a sort of obtuse sense of humour? Is that fair to say? Yes. Yeah, good. I know, I picked up on that. He suggested via email, we were chatting about this, and he said, well, why don't you talk about Flash? And I thought, oh, okay, why are you mentioning Flash? And I think it was because when I would go to his camera store and I'd have a magazine open and I'd be saying, Heath, I think my photography would be much better if I bought this f2.8 lens, or this f1.4, or if I got a wide angle lens, everything had changed for me. And eventually he came around he walks around the counter and leans on it and crosses his arms and looks me in the eye and said, look mate, a lens is pretty much a lens. You really need to focus on your light. I'm the only one that's heard that? Yeah, okay. So anyway, he, and Flash is a bit like, I was a natural light photographer because Flash involved maths and I didn't really want to learn it. But once you started and we bought a $400 flash off him, which was, really cheap back then, it led me to more and more of it, and it was really handy in the media because very few press events and sporting games and photo opportunities happen in the golden hours of either day. It's always in that 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock band of crappy light, so you've got to bring your own. And it's getting a little bit different now, but the trend in newspaper was really, hit them hard with flash and make it dramatic and things like that. So that's where I ended up. Yeah. And I brought some photos on the slideshow, Beth, if you want to plug in and I can flick through them. I thought it'd probably work better if I talk first and then head over to the computer. But for me, and Heath stepped me through it. First up, we said, well, pop the flash up on the camera, and we had a go at that, and we worked at how to incorporate that into, is it all waking up? Oh, look at that, nice. The password's Star Wars.
Wow, that's a powerful flash.
Yeah, no, that's not mine. That's if you can jump down to capture one, go into this one.
Which one?
Just that yeah. There you go. Anyway, I'll finish talking and then I'll take over, Beth. Sorry. So the flash pops up and then you shoot it, and it's kind of like you're just making a photocopy of someone, like the light just hits them, it's a bit flat. And then Heath got me onto a bigger flash, and then because the light's a bit further away from the lens, suddenly you have less trouble with red eye and all of that icky stuff starts to happen less. And then you start to, he taught me about being very counterintuitive, whereas usually we're always like, you want your ISO to be as low as possible always because that's the best quality. Always keep it low. But if you actually turn it up a little bit, the ambient light starts to creep back into your photo when you're using flash, and then it looks a little bit more balanced. And I can, tell me if I'm boring you. Please tell me if I'm boring you. And then you realise that this has got a whole mechanism in it that turns around. And Heath encouraged me to do that because I just paid $400 for the privilege of that. And so all of a sudden, white roofs become like a giant softbox. And then you dump a heap of light up in there, and it just trickles down over the crowd of people. Or Jill, what was your question before you mentioned?
A group of people dining in a restaurant.
Yeah, so dark restaurant. Yeah, and you take a photo and you pop the flash up, and all the flash hits the people in the front row, and then a little bit of flash gets to the second row, and then by the end of it, I think we said Grandma down in the back there's no memory of Grandma ever at Uncle Phil's 40th. Having something that you can push a bit of light up into the ceiling and then let it trickle back down on the table is really good. If you're comfortable, I would be saying, what would you, if you were to dial in settings, if you're hand holding and you want to take a photo here, what's the slowest shutter speed you might use? 60th? Yeah, so wide angle lens, probably like a 28mm, yeah. You don't want to go, you want to probably keep your shutter speed twice your focal length so you don't blur things. But with flash, because flash is such an instant pop of light that sort of records straight onto your piece of film or your sensor, all of a sudden you can shoot a lot slower with your shutter speed, which gives time for the light to creep in. So you could shoot this, I'd be happy going down to a 1/10 of a second or a 1/5 of a second or something like that. Tuck your elbows in, take a deep breath, smile, and go for it. Yeah. So bouncing the flash is good. Then the other thing I want to touch on is it's not as expensive as it used to be to get into. Sorry, I'm blind. Yeah, for a trip over, remember? Okay, so let's go through all the reasons why I've never travelled overseas, because all my money's spent on camera gear. So, okay, cool. So, I had the $400 flash that I convinced the newspaper to buy for Heath, but when I moved to Tasmania, I had to leave that here. So all of a sudden I went from having some flash back to no flash. And I had gear I could use at the newspaper, but I wanted my own. So anyway, convinced the girlfriend, who became the wife, that I needed an off-camera flash situation, because bouncing's good, but back in the newspaper, it was very trendy to get the light away from the lens. So once you get light away from the lens, you start to get no shadow, and you can do a bit of Rembrandt lighting, and you can, instead of having a flat light hitting a face and making it flat, you can introduce a shadow, and people become three-dimensional again. So this was my cheap solution, which was a speed light, which was $800. And then this cord, which was like 120. Yeah. So for just under $1,000, you could get yourself, you know what I mean? Like seriously. And that sat on top of the camera, and then because every photo you noticed, like it didn't matter if the sun was coming in this way. All of a sudden, because the only way you could hold it was this way, you had this. Anyone watch Star Wars? The planets with the two suns. So you had this kind of that key light coming from this way, and the sun's off in the background over there, and your picture editor's yelling at you, and you can't work out why. So this was my off-camera flash thing, and if you grab a hold of that, this is the range you're working with, and it's okay. Then, my poor wife, that's good, and that's a great second flash. We got to this one, which they introduced radio. Well, not really radio, more like infrared. Canon had infrared. These guys had pre-flash, so they had the Nikon system. So you would see one flash of light, but what was happening was the camera was sending out this little Morse code burst, which was saying, you know, power, strength, and then the real flash had come. So this was $7.99. So instead of 800 and something, we dropped. Actually, I think we've got this on special for $6.99. And my wife, we drove from Burnie, which is, you know, okay, so Tasmania's potato chip. We went from there to there, about an hour and a half, and yeah, she was like, that's worth the drive, that's a sale. And okay, and then, you know, probably 2010 or something, that's the setup. China explode, and they start to go, we can actually take these and make our own ones that look suspiciously like Canons and Nikons and Olympuses, and call them things like Cactus or Yongnuo. Anyone got any Yongnuo stuff? Yeah. ProMaster. What else are brands? Godox, any of that kind of stuff. Well cheap. You can get these for $89, $90, and they're wireless, and they, you know, so you could have 7 of them, and you could have a walk-in studio in your backpack. Yeah, and which brings me to this thing here, which is just basically the same, but it's like a studio light. It's got a big globe in it, and it's just more power and more modifiers, so you can put a bigger softbox on it and use these outdoors. It's got a battery in it, so you don't have to run it with a cord. And these, mind you, came out 10 years after those, but they are $700. You know what I mean? And you get all that power. So it's not cheap, but it's getting affordable. That would have been $1,500 when I started out. So it's becoming very affordable to, you know, like Heath looked at it, he's like, well, you could spend $1,200 on a lens, or you could spend $99 on eBay now and get be able to take really crisp, clear, lit photos for much less. And I think you get your value for money, if that's important to you, in the light gear versus the lenses and all that kind of stuff. Like what am I, 33 now? And I've been shooting since I was 18, more or less professionally, so that's been my job. Except for when I was 18 and working at Woolworths too, that was supplementing my photography. This is the first year I've finally gone and thought, screw it, I'm going to buy 2.8 glass and get my, 80 to 300 and 24 to... Yeah, it's an 80 on the Olympus, but yeah, same thing. You know, that's when I finally got my... And it's been light that's helped me cheat it. Yeah. Get that extra stop of light out when you can, you know, just blast some light into the scene. That sounds like enough rabbiting on. Should I show you some pictures? Okay. I should probably move that then. Look at you, you've got such a nice setup, and here I am just dropping junk all over it. All right. There's the other brand I didn't mention, Sigma. Okay. Oh, this is a really nice projector, isn't it? The one in my, I've finally got myself a touchscreen TV in the classroom, which is amazing, but the projector before that was nothing like this. This is really good. Okay, so I'll try and be quick. There's a bunch of photos here ranging from old Bay Post stuff to that one I thought was an amazing photo with a little bit of flash in there, and then if you look real closely you can see my foot. So and that's kind of why I'm a bit envious of you know, the amateur kind of photographer, because you guys can just show your best. I have a bad day and it gets on the front page, and then, you know, it goes around Fairfax, and then by the end of it, you get phone calls and texts from about 400 photographers saying, nice foot, mate. So, whereas you don't have to live with that palaver. Now, when we were, they've all jumped out of order on me. I thought if I sorted them manually, they would. So anyway, last time I was here, and look, this big one I've only really brought to show you guys. That mostly lives in the boot in my other car in Albury. When I came properly on holidays back in May, I just brought a flash, just chucked it in. I didn't even bring the off-camera bits. And of course, I'm driving to see my grandma, and the Daily Telegraph call, and they said, "You still in Bateman's Bay?" I said, "Not for 10 years, but I am today." And I said, "Do you want to make $400? And I said, "Yeah." I could buy myself 4 flashes. The Daily Telegraph is news limited, and they're super lit, like they like lots of light and flash, and I had one. And I didn't bring the charger for the batteries, and you turn it on and they go, and you can tell after a while whether if it recycles quickly or whether it's slowly, and these were on their last legs. So anyway, I had to take $400 to take a photo of a girl, and this was the giant oyster story. You guys see that one? Bernie Connell, and this was all around the time of the Narooma Oyster Festival. And I had to take a photo of a man, a girl, and an oyster. And so I did that. That one doesn't have any flash in it. These ones are lit by the sun out on the water on a boat. So that was kind of nice. This was still on the boat, but he's kind of backlit. I think he was turning around. Kiss, nothing weirder than being on the Clyde River yelling out, "Kiss the oyster!" There's people in a houseboat going, We'll go around that one. We'll skip that. So this was a real mess, this shoot, because that's direct flash, so that's down the long lens, the flash is on top of the camera.
On the camera.
Yeah, and that's the only way I could fire it, because I didn't have any triggers and by the time the lights, like if you're close up, it's reasonably soft, but by the time you get down the long lens, it looks really harsh, and to me that looks like he doesn't have any shadows. He's he looks very much like he's been cut and pasted into there, which you'll probably learn in your Photoshop masterclass in a couple of weeks. So when you get closer, that's actually it gets a bit softer, because the lens is wider. See, all of a sudden the horizon over there is gone to, the bridge is just a speck over there. Wide angle lens, so it gets a bit softer. But what I actually did was, and I'm struggling, I'm trying to make $400, and don't have enough gear for this, and Heath's shop's closed, and I'm in. So instead of going to Heath's, I go to Bunnings. And this lovely white card you guys have framed your work with, I buy 2 sheets of that with gaff tape down the middle, and the lady from council who has organised this photo shoot is standing over the top of me with this big thing. So, and then that helped, and then I punched the flash into that, and it wafted back over Bernie. So, and this one, where's this? So this is again she's holding the reflector. And it's bouncing. I'm sending it from the top of the camera onto that cardboard and back onto her. So that's kind of cheating a bit there. But anyway, that's enough of that. How am I going for time, Ken?
No idea.
You pull me off stage the minute you need to.
Keep going.
Okay, keep going. Okay, so this is a bunch of newspaper stuff, and I'm just going to flick through it. So this is where is he? I think he's the local. I'm trying to think of the area it's called in Albury Wodonga, but he was retiring. So this I can't remember if this has flash or not. I don't think it does. This was just a little candid one, and I was just trying to stack. He's got this artwork he's proud of, so I'd sit there. He's talking to a reporter over here, and trying to stack up his glasses and the map and the whole everything. This guy here does Fallon Duffer in Albury in the park. So every morning you could go down there, and he's had one of those lives where he's locked up for a bit and come over here, and yeah, so he's, and that is like, you guys are like, how much do you want me to talk? Do you want to talk about lenses and stuff? You can tell that that's a long lens shot through someone doing a motion and shallow depth of field and all that kind of stuff.
No flash.
No flash. Well, no, I'm tipping not. I could probably get in here and let's have a look. Metadata. Here we go. I would forget my shopping. If I could put my shopping list in metadata, I think I would. Yeah, order. So flash mode did not fire. There we go. So this one is lit by one flash, and what I did was, essentially there was a bit of a pipe running down here, and I could wedge the little speed light, like one of these, up into that, and that fired. You could see the tunnel of light down. And I got some free light because it bounced off the newspaper back into her face. So that was, yeah. And like this is, we're talking for 99 bucks you can do this kind of stuff, yeah? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, we get myself
Yeah. Where do you guys do most of your gear shopping around here? Do you go to Canberra, to Ted's or? eBay, yep. Oh, mate, yeah, yeah. So this one, I actually thought I lit with flash, but I was looking at this last night and I did not. So I'll skip through it real quick. But that's kind of one of these things where it says go to Albury Pool and there's 3 people doing a rescue thing and you've got to try and make it look good.
3 people in the water.
That's it, yeah. So anyway, this is where to me I find flash really helps, and I'll try to get to some examples. So that's the setting sun. That's not a flash back there, and that you can see how much, like when it gets low and it's coming into the lens, it's quite strong. So, and this is the sort of the density of the shadow. It's pretty much, it's not black, but it's pretty much black. So by punching in flash in the opposite direction or thereabouts, you can actually compress the light into the scene, and you get a bit of tone in here and you get a bit of light in here. Like if I was going to available or natural light that just for their faces, the sky would be white, the sun would be gone. And look, I get that polarizes. People go, there is lens flare all over that bloke, mate. What are you a photographer or are you a muppet? So take it or leave it. I won't be offended. Now this is where we.
That one there would be on with the flash just on the camera.
Well, no, I think let's zoom in a little bit.
Because I'm not too sure if you, you run up all that long. How do you, unless you have a tripod, how do you hold the flash?
Yeah,
2
so-
meters to your left.
So I handhold the camera. I've tried all sorts of things, and sometimes I will handhold the flash and timer the camera. It's a good way to get your exercise going. I should do more of it actually. But in this case, the flash was on a stand with a radio trigger, transmitter, a receiver. So the hot shoe on the camera's got a transmitter. So and you can pull my work apart really quickly, and anyone's if you look at the shadows. So noses are awesome. So you can tell that from that we just go in the opposite direction. The flash was probably high-ish coming in from that direction. Can you guys see that?
But it's true, you've got the sky and everything really perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that, is that because of the flash, isn't it? Because
Yeah, so well, I could do that. I could go to a shutter speed and aperture that would capture that. But these guys are being shade, and then you just fill them in with flash. This is on-camera flash. So this was. He's not Prime Minister anymore, is he? No. And this was, he came to Albury and he said, there is no way I'm interested in the leadership of the Liberal Party on this day. I still remember it. And thank you. So this is where on-camera flash is good, because obviously you can't control where they do a press conference. The sun's behind them. That's how the TV guys prefer it. They'd like the background to fall out, and then so we have to fill in to get anything other than a silhouette of them.
So you just hold that above your head.
Oh, it might have, because these things are they're a dog's breakfast. Everyone's crawling over each other. The flash was probably on camera. Yes, that sort of thing. And sometimes you run it, you don't necessarily run it, you know, you've got exposure compensation in your camera or the light meter. You might run the flash under a stop, so you're filling in the shadow. I'll show you some. This was just this was flash bang straight up into the ceiling, and it's sort of the moment before the moment. These guys are all, why are we here? What's going on? He's the boss of the building, and they're all, and he's, you know, clearly on the next plane trip, and then they switch on. Yeah. So this is one of those this, I really like his missus. She's cool.
It makes some wonderful captions for
I
that.
think that's great.
Yeah. So, but if you look, let's have a look at my settings. You're going to, okay, look, this is enough to get me ejected from the camera club here. Look, excess data, ISO speed 3200. Are you kidding? You know, shutter speed 1/20th of a second. Now, if you were going to shoot the next Prime Minister, you would think you would want to get it a faster shutter speed so you don't bugger it up. But because the flash is, it freezes them. Yeah. And that ISO is high and the shutter speed is so low to try and, because the flash isn't going to reach out behind the bar. So you need to let the ambient light soak in.
Yeah.
And look, my F number there is because I have no idea. I probably wanted a bit of depth of field. She is the local member, and these guys are sort of like the party faithful crew. The Liberal people troll out to, you know.
So this would be on the AC. Are you a Canon or?
Well, I've shot everything depending on what newspaper.
No, but this one.
This is Canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would that be on the what's it,
On the which?
AV setting?
It might, probably not. I probably would have gone manual mode. I can't honestly remember.
Yeah.
Aperture priority is fantastic for flash because
Yeah.
yeah.
It shows you the.
I usually jump between aperture priority and manual.
Yeah.
Shutter priority doesn't get much love from me. Does if I shoot a bit of film, then I. Now this photo here, it's just I don't think there's any. Nope, did not fire. I just had to leave it in there because this made it through me, through photoshopping, through the system, through the reporter, through the sub-editors, onto the printed page, distributed to the newsagents before we realised this guy here is in the background. No one saw it. Did you guys? Who saw that before I pointed that out? Yes. Yeah. You've got promising careers as sub-editors. No, that's Aubrey Courthouse, everybody. Come on down. Yeah, this is you know when you photo of. Can you get a photo of a student who's won an award for writing something? Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, here we go. So yeah, and this is kind of a mixture of on-camera flash and sitting someone. Is it? Oh no, it did not fire. It's making a liar out of me. I swear I shot that with flash. I can't remember. So sometimes getting someone really close to a window is like, you know, a free softbox. And this is kind of one of these. See, I'm not sure convinced. This has got to be lit by flash, and it's saying do not fire. Like you can see the shadows in there. Look at that. It's probably not going. So this was a story about one of Wodonga's schools falling down. This isn't no flash in that. That's a lady whose house burnt down, but she found a cat. No flash in that. So this.
High school champions.
I just like his face. I couldn't imagine that guy being afraid of anything. Only. Yeah. So this is Tara Moss. She writes books, and she's and this was one flash. I think this is bounced somewhere. She's in the green room before she goes on. I have no time, so let's just pile of books and let's guess. I think the flash is kind of in the, well, there's a no shadow, so it's up here somewhere, bounced and just coming in. Yeah. If you point direct, unmodified flash at a ex-supermodel, she would throw you out the window, so I had to bounce it. Yeah. They sort of look at the light. No, you're not hitting that, putting that light on me. Oh, okay, Miss Moss. This is just Reverend or the Reverend who's it's opening the community junk store. So I said, could you karate chop it? And he did. This story is about a gentleman who's really worried about the air quality of something, and he had to bring in, he's got really sensitive lungs and asthma, and he's brought in it's a very, thanks for coming all the way to the Eurobodalla, showing me this photo. I can hear it now. But the idea is there's a little bit of light on him coming in from over here. It might even be 3 lights. There might be feels like there's a light coming in that way just because there's a shadow in the middle there. But there's a nice little bit of light just to look at the air conditioner. So you can do that with flashes because they're small and you can chuck them around and so that's just a flash lighting up a man who found a coin in his backyard with his 2-stroke.
So here again, would you have the flash on a tripod there?
Yeah, on a stand.
So
Yeah.
it's easy to carry that stand around.
Yeah. It's too hard for me to lie on the floor and reach up. But sometimes it's not a stand. Sometimes it's a bookcase. Sometimes it's a family member, or But most of the time it's a stand because and the more the newspaper at this time it was like hit them with flash and just underexpose and strobe, but nowadays if you read a newspaper they're more about it's got to make a bit of sense, so that kind of makes sense where the light's coming from. This is just ridiculous. This is just playing with flash. So this was a 30-second exposure, fairly low ISO, decent aperture. And the camera's on this time, this is the complete opposite to what we're talking about. So the camera's locked off, squeeze the shutter, and then I'm running around hitting the test button on the flash. So one on that side of his face, one on the other, and then just popping them in the background to try and convey some sense of stargazing. I just left this here because I thought you guys might like to see a golf ball that was a tree had grown around. There's a bit of flash in there, but I'm not kidding. No one's looking at the flash in that. That's the. And this is the top of Albury's Dean Street, and these guys are roller derby sporting athletes. So that sometimes you just a bit of flash to help it. It's like this paper prints really nicely. Newspapers don't print very nicely at all, so you try and often. Oh, here we go. It's more golf. And this, sometimes we use flash for dramatic effect. So you make everything dark and serious because the ambos aren't getting paid enough, and then that you associate dark with sad and moody. How am I going, Ken? We all good?
Yeah,
Few more.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we can flick. This guy made a coffin out of beer cans. And this is again that kind of 1/60th of a second, and the ISO was creeping up because footballers always run late. They always want to run one more lap. So I started there, and I started all dialed in and ready to go at like ISO 400. And then as the sun dropped, I'd creep it up a bit and creep it up a bit. And yeah. So I mean, if you screw on your ISO a bit, you can bring a bit of that stuff back. This is one of those scenarios where the lights in the background, and they're in there's no light, so you got to hit them with flash. This isn't flash, but that sort of shows the behind the scenes kind of thing. That's what run, and that's what was really going on. This is flash stuff. This is just Father. Oh gosh, how did I forget his name? He's more Aubrey than Aubrey, and he's semi-retiring, and that's not flash, obviously. But this photo, where's my? We just do a whole. This will do your head in quickly before we finish up. So that's a Dalek replica at the cinema. These father and daughter are Doctor Who nuts, and they loved it. And so I haven't lit the Dalek. I've lit them for the reflection.
Yeah.
So you have to. it wasn't as hard as it sounds. You'd stand them where you can see the reflection, and then you turn around, you light them,
Yeah.
and then you go back and you take your photo.
And then you reverse the whole image.
Oh yeah.
It's a photo.
I don't know. Tell me when to stop. That was a nice photo. He lost his wedding ring for his late wife, and he was just so. Anyway, he found it,
Oh.
and then about a week later, he died. So it was one of those really nice. So that's direct flash from a long lens, and you can tell it's very harsh, and and that's one of those ones where you got to really drop the 1 second exposure handheld, but because there's flash, it's not a Picasso, it's a photo. It's a, you know what I mean? Like the flash can freeze everything. That's on camera flash, but again with a high ISO, slow shutter speed. This was meant. This guy actually got bitten whilst I was taking his photo. That's a nice bit of flash in there. I'm pretty proud of that one. It's just way off, almost behind him. Cut him down. That's just gratuitous flash. There he's holding the flashes that are lighting him. It's just that's flash bounced into a reflector that's being held. So someone's holding a reflector and holding the flash around it. Flash, window. That's direct, like on camera flash, and you can tell. Get it off camera, it looks like that. Get it on camera, it's. It doesn't feel harsh until you compare the two.
Yeah.
Like I'll be very happy with that. And that's on camera flash. Anyway, any questions?
Yeah. Long exposure, say 1 second.
Yeah.
You know, an example there. Would you flash fire at the beginning or the end of that exposure?
Depends on your camera system. So ideally, I prefer to have it on the rear curtain, so as it's closed, just before it closes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like if you're shooting a car or something and it fires first, the car travels through it, and then the flash pops and the
I was thinking of that guy, holding the pose, if you like, for 1 second. And if you've got a 1 second exposure, you might have moved a little bit.
yeah.
And that's not shown up there, so
Yeah.
the flash throws in.
So with the Canon stuff, until very recently now, I think you can get off camera and rear curtain, but we were stuck with using first curtain. So it was first curtain, rear curtain's way better if you can get it, because if the flash pops at the end, the light trails all make sense. If there's a bit of blur in it, the flash covers it up. It's way better if you can get it on the rear curtain.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So what wide angle lens do you use?
Well, most of the media stuff is like a 16 to 35. So, but that's on a cropped camera. So I didn't have the 1DX, I had the Mark IV, so that was about a 20 mil. Yeah.
They've gone down on the left side there,
One of these ones, or
where you are with the square box down the left hand side, up the top there, where you are now,
yeah,
and down to that dark one. With
this one,
no, across, right across and down.
this one,
No, next one down.
yes.
No.
Oh no.
No. Up from her, that one, yeah. What was that one doing?
So this was at the back of a footy game. So you'd shoot the game and then you got to get some crowd stuff too. So I didn't have the flash. I actually had shots of flash firing with this one. So I had the reporter here dumping like a full, like holding it, and I had it set to full power. And it was lighting these guys up, but I like the silhouette better. So the trouble is, look at that. I think I'm at f18. So you guys have probably got a lot newer cameras than I did back then, and they clean the sensor themselves, but mine didn't. So by the time you shoot at f18 on a long lens, that thing looks like a plague of mosquitoes, and you've got to try and clean all the dust off it. But that's what's going on there. Yeah. I'll just show you. Where did I see it? That made me think of. So this photo here, backlit with flash filling. Yeah, and you can probably tell it's coming from this direction because it's caught the leaves. It's probably a bit distracting, really. I should have tried to hide that a bit better. But that's sort of the similar photo you get using natural light at the same exposure. Yeah.
So with the flash, are you able to decide how much comes out of it?
Yes, yeah. So it depends how much you want to pay. So you can buy fancy triggers now where you can dial in the power on the top of the trigger, which talks to the flash, or the receiver on the bottom, and then you can go from full power to quarter power or up and down. My flashes, I've only got, they call them dumb triggers because they just say fire. So I would guess, take a photo and then adjust it, or aperture's what really controls flash at the camera end. So if it was a little bit out, you could increase your F number a little bit to dull the strength of the flash.
So what exposure is that on there now?
So 3/20th of a second, which was around about the sync speed on the Canon.
Yeah.
Am I losing everyone for saying sync speed, or am I?
But if you wanted more of the background to be clear, like the picture of Turnbull and so on, and with a bar behind it,
Yeah.
then you'd use a slower speed, with, so you get more of the ambience.
More lighting, yeah. Now this is the other thing too. You can cheat if the light's really low. I would sometimes go, oh, if the light's really low, I'd use a wider angle lens because then I'd get a slower amount of shutter speeds available to me for hand holding. As you at 200mm, you really want to stick around the 200th of a second. You can go a bit lower with a flash, but on a wide angle lens, you can really go slow and yeah. How's all that? Do you want to? Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to see what I look like with blonde tips. All right, I'll get out of your way.